Hey everybody, it's Trisha from Seasonal Yard Art. How are you this evening? Thank you for joining me. I wanted to come out tonight and paint this cute little bear who is at the Honeypot. He just reminds me of just all the little kid stories and kid little books, and I just thought he was just as cute as could be. And so I wanted to come out and paint him and just go over everything with you. I've already painted him by giving him a primer coat of paint to make sure that the edges and the top coat with the CNC lines are painted in nicely. This helps brighten up your paint colors and also adds an extra layer of protection for the wood. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to go out and I'm going to get my mop brush, one of my mop brushes here, and get a nice big one here. And we're just going to go ahead and do a base coat. I'm going to use our reindeer brown for him. We've got two bears in. I want this one to be a nice golden brown. So I'm just going to go ahead and give him a nice base coat. Use the mop brush because you're able to push the paint around quickly. Going to avoid his eyes. So we'll come in and we'll do those in black. Let me just get the base coat going. He's very scruffy, so he's got some jagged little wisps of hair going everywhere. He is a typical kid or baby bear getting into mischief. And you know, if you wanted to, you could always paint this with a roller for your base coat to quickly get the paint spread everywhere. But with the mop brush, you can quickly do that as well. You just need to get your paint going quickly so that it doesn't dry. Sorry, I'm getting a bit of a cold. Bear with me for a second, I'm just going to get a drink. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. My allergies have been acting up so bad for the last couple of days. I think it's just kind of caught up with me and turned into a cold. So I'm going to go ahead and get my edges done as well. So that way everything has a nice good coat of this brown. I'm going to have to come in with a smaller little brush and get into these little nooks and crannies for his design. I'm just going to get as much on here as I can so that way everything is covered. And like I said, I'll come back around and hit the other side. Alright, so I'm going to come around. I got a little bit of paint right there, right in this Honeypot where I didn't want it. So that's easy enough to fix. I'm just going to grab, oh wait. It's just that's part of the pot I don't want brown. So, as you can see, a little baby wipe does the trick. And what's really nice about coming in here with all of this is that you get good coverage. But if you catch it quick enough, you can clean up any little missteps you make with the paint. So you just want to make sure I'm not getting it into his pot of honey, because that's going to be a different color. Just carefully coming around. Make sure I get his paw. And as you can tell with the mop brush, you're able to get a really good coverage, a really good coat of paint on. Spin him around. Just getting as close as I can without getting it into the honey pot. And it's okay if I get almost up to it and not quite up to it, because our shading and our outlining will fix any little misses up. I do want to make sure I get paint into all of these little CNC lines. So I am taking it in sections just to make sure I get a nice smooth coat. And we'll come in and we'll be able to go over, just going to do the whole thing with this brown, and then we'll come in and we'll hit the other colors, the darker colors, because that'll cover with this. Again, I want to make sure my paint is smooth. I don't have big clumps that I'm missing, but I want to try and get as much paint into my CNC. So that's why I'm doing it in little sections. So if I start doing big streaks, I might not see if something isn't smooth or covered. There we go. And then I'm just going to come around and hit the rest of the edges. So our edges are covered nicely. I might have to come back in with a very small, fine little flat brush to get in these little grooves, so I make sure I have everything covered nicely. Because the mop brush is not great at the little nooks and crannies on the side. And then this coat will have to dry I usually like to let these dry overnight because I put on a lot of paint, and that way it has a good opportunity to dry. And then if I need to do a second coat, depending on how it dries, I can without worrying about it pulling up parts of the paint, because we don't want that. All right. If there's something that you miss here and you need to come back in, you just need to make sure you have enough paint on your brush that you don't pull up the paint that's underneath. I just want to make sure all of my sides have as much paint on them as they can, and then I'm going to come around with a little brush and just get into those corners. So I'm done with the reindeer brown. Just going to come in with a small little tiny flat brush, and just going to come in and make sure that I've got everywhere in these little tiny grooves, because this little design on this one has a lot of little angles and curves and cuts into it to really use this design. So I just want to make sure that I've got everything hit on the sides with this color, and then I can move on to base coating the Honeypot. Looks like I just missed just a little bit in there. Okay, that looks pretty good. Oops, down here. Okay, he looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and just wipe all of this reindeer brown off of my hands, and didn't realize that I wasn't on the overhead camera. So my apologies for that, but now you can see the that I got. I'm sorry that I didn't switch those. Now I'm going to come in, I'm going to let this part dry up here just a little bit, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to come in with some yellow, because our yellow is dripping all down the sides. Just bear with me 1 second, my little needle slipped down. So let me get him. Oops. Okay. So I'm going to just come in here with some yellow, and we're going to get that painted in. I'm just going to come in, because these spots are kind of small, I'm going to come in with a script liner, a large script liner, and just kind of push the paint into these little curves, and then I can come in and smooth it with a flat brush. But these kind of dip down. And then I'll come in with a flat brush and I'll kind of smooth out everything because I'm getting a lot of paint on here. And I just want to make sure I have good coverage with this yellow. Alright, so now I'm going to come in with, because as you can see it's kind of a little chunky and we want it to be smooth. I'm just going to come in and kind of smooth that out a bit so everything is nice and has a smooth finish. I might need to take a little bit of this paint off. It's a little thick. Reminds me of more like a mustard instead of a honey. The way it's clumping up. That's okay, we'll get it smoothed out. And I can take a little bit off the brush and then just kind of come in and smooth that. There we go. Just taking a little bit of the excess off, because then I'm able to smooth it down and it'll dry nicely. I don't have to come back in and do extra coats here to smooth that out. I got just a wee bit too much there. These are all the things that you will do when you're painting, so it's nice to see other people do these things and then you're like, oh yeah, that's kind of normal. It's okay. I can make this work. Sometimes you see people who are painting and they paint so perfectly, and then when you make any type of small error, you're like, oh my god, I screwed that up because, you know, I didn't paint it exactly the way that they did it, or they made it look so easy and mine is not quite looking so easy. So I like to show you reality so you can really see, really and truly see what normal is, and that it's perfectly fine to have these little glitches and little mistakes and how to work through them. So while this is drying up for just a minute, I'm going to spin this back around and I'm going to come in and I'm going to do a layer of paint on the ears. Let me go ahead and clean out that yellow brush. Just going to wipe that off and come in and give a nice coat of pink in the ears. And again, like I said, his hair is a little scruffy, so he's got these little tiny wisps kind of going everywhere and it looks a little jagged. It's like your typical little messy boy. And I'm going to come in and get his tongue. Okay. Looks like good coverage for that. Now I'm going to come in with the larger script liner again, so let me clean that out. Had this script liner forever, and I just love it. It's probably one of the first paintbrushes I ever bought, and it's still going strong. I just make sure that I clean them out really well after every use, And I do my little secret trick for keeping the paintbrushes together. Sorry, my hold on, it's sticking a little bit. It's because it's expanding and contracting because of the heat. It gets really hot, the air conditioning in the house is really cold, and it does not want to break open. This is when I usually call my husband and say, honey, come open this jar for me. Let me see if I can get it. There we go. Just takes a little muscle. Alright, so now I'm going to come in and I'm going to do inside his mouth. And get that little divot in his tongue. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to do all of his eyes in black, and then we'll come back in and we'll do all of the highlights. So don't worry that we're doing them all in black first. We're just getting that base coat of the black. Then we'll come in and we'll bring it all to life. Okay. Well, I'm going to keep this one in my hand. I'm going to come in with a darker brown for his nose. And that way I can come in and hit the very center. With the black. You just get this. Good layer on here. Okay, now I can come in with the black for his tip of his nose. And I'm going to come in and just add a little bit more. Looks like it needs just a little bit more black on there. There we go. Excuse me. Okay, now I'm going to come in with my Honeypot, and I am going to do my Honeypot in this sandy color. Back to this Gotta switch over to the honey squeeze bottles, because these are just getting to use them a couple of times, and for me, it's hard to get them open. That's closed. Alright. So like I said, sometimes what is happening is it's just getting so hot, and then it gets cold, and then it gets warm, and the jars are just kind of seizing up on me. I thought getting these little bits of shelf liner would help, and they do, but it's still very hard for me to go ahead and get that. So I'm going to come in with another script liner, come in, and I'm going to paint the whole thing, even over the letters, and then I can, oh, it's a little bit, no, might be okay, feels a little bit thick. I might have to come in and add just a bit of water to this. Yeah, it is a little grainy. So let me just mix in just a little bit of water here. Like I said, it kind of gets very hot, and then it gets very cold, and the paint kind of doesn't know what it's doing. So just add in just a little bit of water to loosen it up a bit so it goes on smoothly. You don't want it to look too thick. There we go. That's better. Like I said, I'm going to paint over the letters and everything, and then once they dry, I can come in and paint over them. And come back around here with a little script liner, kind of get in these little nooks and crannies that I'm not able to get too close to, so we have good coverage on our pot. But I thought this was the perfect clay color pot color. It just looks very earthy, just like a normal clay pot would look. I just want all of my paint to be smooth, so I'm just coming back in, making sure it's a nice smooth layer here. And then I'll come back in and hit the edges. I want my paint layers to be paint to dry smoothly. There we go. All right. And then I'm just going to come in and hit the edges. I hear that people are still coming out with their fireworks, trying to use them all up, even though the 4th is over. So bear with us if you hear them. I'm sorry. They're just having a little fun. All right, I'm going to come back in and get my little script liner here. You know what, I might get a cleaner one. Don't want to pull any black paint into this. So I'll just go ahead and a new script liner and just kind of come in and get these little spots here that didn't get any paint. And I'm able to get close enough to these lines. And my dog's gonna start going crazy from the fireworks. He's had a rough few days. It's like I wish there could be a town that was firework free just so everybody could bring their dogs there. You know, like a kennel or a place that is in a firework free zone. Okay. Okay, I think we got good coverage there. We won't need to come back in and get too close with the shading for that. It should be good. All right. Just hitting these sides just to make sure I got everything really well. These little edges here. Sometimes with the mop brush it just doesn't get the sides very well. That's okay. We'll get it with this. Just make sure everything has a good coat. Okay. And then I'm going to come in and hit his paws up really quick before we go, and going to come in with just a lighter color, because the paws always are a bit lighter underneath. You know, you can do it with a black and go darker, and if it was a darker bear I might do that, but he's got good color, so I'm going to come in and just kind of hit his paws with a lighter color. Just kind of like the pads of his feet there. And we'll do the big one as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, we're going to let him dry, and we will come back tomorrow and we will go ahead and do all of his shading and we'll come back on tomorrow, we'll do all of the shading and the highlighting, and we'll bring this bear to life. Let me just kind of hold him up so you can see. He looks like he might need a second coat once he's fully dried, but you kind of got to let him dry completely so you can tell. But we'll let him dry and we'll see how he looks, and we'll come back tomorrow and we'll bring him to life and we'll see how fun and cute he can look. So until tomorrow, you guys have a great night and we'll see you soon.